I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Here at TWRS, we're always here to help our squad when they need a little push in the right direction. That's just who we are. We're a beautifully diverse group of goofballs dedicated to driving fake race cars as fast as possible. And we continue to push each other to the front using the power of nonsense. We have one of the strongest NASCAR programs on the service, and you can access it all for $24.99 a month. And we just released individual subscriptions for $14.99 a month for each NASCAR vehicle. We also just added a rallycross program, and our IndyCar program is taking off as well. So come join the weird side. We have speed and cookies. Cookies are not included in some locations.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Another night of iRacing action right here on the National Racing Network, where tonight it will be the stars and cars of the TNT Shock Series running their fall season round number 2, coming to you from Indianapolis Raceway Park, located in Brownsburg, Indiana. Mark Smith holds the track record. I can't believe this is still the track record here. Set in 1989 in an SCCA Formula Super V. 19 and change seconds. These guys tonight will be below that track record. My name is Chris Graham, joined in the booth, as always, by my buddy here, Mr. Patrick Byrne. And Bizzle, we saw quite frankly, a really good race 1 week ago. James Watson taking the win. A little bit of controversy possibly, and a very upset race director telling the drivers not to go onto the apron. I don't think that's going to be an issue here tonight, but doesn't mean the action isn't going to be hot and heavy. Watson 5th in practice and some very quick names ahead of him.
Yeah, a little bit of discussion in the pre-race going on about blocking. Blocking has been an issue here in the past. With this being a 3-line racetrack, you can run the high line, be fast, you can run low, you can run right in the middle and be fast on all 3 lines. It does open up the possibility for changing line mid-corner, maybe jumping up to block somebody, what we in the dirt world call a slide job, or even weaving down the front and back straightaways. And that is something that the race director, Em McCullen, wants to avoid here tonight, as it can cause unnecessary accidents during the race.
Yeah, and the slide job in these cars here at IRP will most certainly be a thing. Somebody is going to run the Stevie Smith line tonight, too. All the way down, almost getting your left side tires in the grass. It's a crazy thing to do in a sprint car or a Silver Crown car, but it can work here because these cars have so much downforce compared to the amount of power that they have that you really have 3, maybe even 4 workable grooves as we get ready to head to qualifying.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to attend the Carbonite Classic in the real world, and seeing the way the midgets run around here, seeing the way the Silver Crowns run around here, they're all hugged up right against that outside wall. Occasionally you have a guy dive down to the bottom trying to set up a pass. But then when the USF 2000 cars, and at the time they were called the Indy Pro 2000 cars, went out there on the racetrack, it just made it a completely dynamic course. It's like you weren't even watching the same racetrack. It made it a very, very exciting race.
Yeah, it might have been Mary Damon that we just saw coming through the screen, riding up against that outside retaining wall. And that really is something that these drivers are going to be able to do tonight. I guess now safer barrier up there on the outside of the wall. But 50 seconds remain in the practice session. Nagisa Yoshikawa is your quick timer with a best lap time of 19.259 seconds. Jason Owens, Brian Labarge looks like will be your podium here in the practice session. 2-lap average qualifying is coming up here next, Bizzle, and this really is important. I think more than any other race on the calendar for this particular season, qualifying up front here is going to be very important. Yes, there's a lot of room to work, but you're still going to have a hard time getting through. It's not quite a super speedway race, but it might feel like it at times.
Yeah, it's not like some of the short tracks where you can dive in the braking zones and pass someone in the braking zones before you even get into the mid-corner. And it's not like where we were just at Iowa, where it's a pack race and it's like Talladega and you can get the big drafts. Here at IRP, there are 3 distinct lines to work with, and you can run side by side for lap after lap after lap. But this might be the most difficult track on the calendar to actually complete a pass at.
Yeah, we'll see how this all shakes out in qualifying as practice is complete. Nagisa Yoshikawa, your quick timer. 5 minutes is on the clock, and we are going to see a lot of cars on the racetrack very, very quickly. Let's pick up the number 16 of West Shire. He is just now pulling out onto the racetrack in his Homestead Coffee Schaefer Oil Cannon Cameras entry. Multi-time champion here in the series, and Wes is one of those guys that you would expect to be very good here. Tens of thousands of laps at this racetrack, Bizzle. But that's true for a lot of these guys. Jason Owens, James Watson, Brian Labarge. A lot of these guys have a lot of experience here. But we're also seeing names like Chris Hill, who may not have as much experience in these cars, but they're absolute monsters in an Indy car.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of discussion in the pre-race about a lot of these drivers saying the IndyCar is actually easier to drive than these PM18 cars, just because the IndyCar is a little bit more downforce, or actually a lot more downforce, has a longer wheelbase, has a wider track, just all in all is a much more stable car to drive. These things are almost like you have a needle right under them, and they're just spinning around on the needle, and you're just trying to keep them pointed in the same direction the whole time. It's like driving a sprint car at the Chili Bowl is what these things are, any track you put them at.
Yeah, that is exactly right. As Brian Labarge moves to the top of the charts, he has completed both of his laps. We'll pick up Mike Long working through turns 1 and 2 in his Yokohama tires, number 21. Excuse me, that's turns 3 and 4. Labarge to the top of the charts. Jason Paydu now second quick. West Shire, Chris Hill, JJ Wang, your top 5. And these laps are coming in hot and heavy here. Vic Pfluger just coming around to finish his qualification run. Let's pick up Dakota DeMeg in the number 82. Sunset Arctic Gaming on the side of his entry. So far, Murray Damon, Chris Kresge, James Watson have not turned a lap yet. Steve Costley has completed his run. He will not get a time in the books as Dakota DeMeg crosses over the start-finish line. Lap number 2 on the board will move Dakota up to, well, either 9th or 12th. I think it's 12th based on the 2-lap averages here. Murray Damon now moving out onto the speedway in his number 60. Lap number 1 is underway. Still waiting to see Chris Kresge and James Watson head out onto the racetrack as we are down to 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in qualifications. Lap number 1.
I'm not sure we will see Watson come out there onto the racetrack. If you remember last week, did get the win, but ended up with an end-of-line penalty here for tonight's race. It's not like the Sim Racers Club that we did in the past, that you would still be eligible for hard charger if you qualified, even with the EOL. Here, there's really no reason to go out there and qualify. You might as well take the extra minute, just sit back, relax, maybe go grab a drink, something to ready yourself for this race, instead of going out there and blowing everyone away at qualifying time, because it's not going to matter. James Watson is starting at the tail end of the field tonight, no matter what.
Correct. The only real reason I would see to have somebody come in and take an attempt would be pit selection. And basically, you're going to line up first to last in terms of the pit stalls. I don't know that there's a huge advantage to that here, but definitely something to consider is now Murray Damon on pit lane and out of the race car. So we're going to wait out Chris Kresge and James Watson for the next minute and 15 seconds. And those EOL penalties are to the number 39 of James Watson, the 26 of Nagisa Yoshikawa. He is currently slated to start second. He will have to head to the tail of the field. Also the 82 of Dakota DeMeg. that car scheduled to line up in the 13th position. Em McCullen checking into the comments. Should be race directing, but she's here commenting with us. Boo Cannon, Nikon all the way. Yes, I would agree with you on that, Em. I am a Nikon shooter. Bizzle, I think, shoots Fuji or something weird. He's like a Pentax shooter.
No. You're thinking of Wes. I shoot Nikon as well. Wes, actually, we'll talk about Wes Shire here for a moment. While I was on my lunch break at work, he sent me some negatives he shot with film. And some of them he went and got scanned, and the rest of them he took his DSLR and took pictures in negative, which all I could think was you could just skip the middleman and just take the pictures with the DSLR to begin with.
Yes, that is exactly right. Film shooting, I will say, is a labor, time, and money just bigly. It's huge. But there is nothing like shooting film. I have 2 DSLRs and piles of lenses, but my goodness, getting out there and shooting true film, oh, so much fun. All right, cars are heading out to the starting grid. Let's take a look. First, we got to pick up our pole sitter, Mr. Brian LaBarge. And now we can get ready to show you tonight's starting grid. Starting on the pole for tonight's TNT Shock Series 50-minute feature event from Indianapolis Raceway Park will be the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory Team Watson Racing setups number 8 of Brian LaBarge. Lining up on the outside of row number 1, the Napa Auto Parts Hooters Lumar number 28 of Jason Paydu. Row number 2, Stephen C. Thompson in the 24 alongside of the 16 of Wes Shire. Row number 3, Nagisa Yoshikawa lining up alongside of Mary Damon. Nietzsche Camargo out of Brazil alongside of Chris Hill in the 101. And on row 5, JJ Wang alongside of Dakota DeMeg. Jason Owens in the 87 inside of row number 6 to his outside. The Team Watson Racing setups number 7 of Jesse Francisco. Vic Pfluger in the T. Watson Racing setups number 80 inside of Mike Long on the 7th row of the grid. Row number 8 will have Dave Sparks alongside of the 404 of Matthew Johnston. Vic Aldrich and Drew Bernardi going to make up row number 9 tonight. The Dizzy V Designs entry inside of the Team Watson Racing setups number 98. The 926 of Justin Elliott out of Texas in the Canon Renault Elf Labatt Blue 926 alongside of James Watson in position number 20. Chris Kresge alongside of Steve Costley on row number 11. That makes up our 22 starters for tonight's 50-minute long race. We'll discuss some of the implications of that as we get ready to roll. But first, pace car makes its way in, fields through turns 3 and 4. We'll leave the start of this one all up to you guys. Number 1 goes in the books, and it will belong to Brian LaBarge, Jason Paydu, Wes Shire, Stephen C. Thompson, the AJ Camargo, the top 5. Good battles all the way through the field. Yellow is out. Caution. Oh, Jason Owens is around, and Watson's involved as well.
Oh, that Watson machine is junk. Jason Owens' machine is junked as well. Jason Owens jokingly said before the race, God, I can't wait to get junked on lap 1, and unfortunately was his own fortune teller there.
Yeah, let's take a look here at the replay. See what happened to Jason Owens here. Oh, the car just snapped loose on him. Couple of cars able to avoid it. Nowhere for James Watson to go. Also looked like the 86 of Drew Bernardi involved in that one. And we're going to take a look at this one more time. Go on board with James Watson And you see how quickly this develops. There's the spin, hard on the brakes, and just nowhere for Watson to go.
Nothing he could do, and he hit Owen square. That car might have been okay just with a wing change, except for the car that pile drove him from the rear. That's going to destroy your rear axles. It's going to push the transmission, or what we call a transaxle in the mid-engine world, into the engine block. It's going to push everything forward, crack the tub. That car is completely and utterly junked.
Yeah, seeing a long list of cars that acquired damage in that one. Vic Pfluger, Jason Owens, James Watson, Matthew Johnson, Justin Elliott, Dave Sparks, Steve Costley, Drew Bernardi, Dakota DeMeg. The cars of Jason Owens and James Watson are retired from the event. Unfortunate early night out for Watson and for Jason Owens. Unfortunately, both of whom look like are already out of the Discord server. So we'll not be able to discuss the festivities there in turn number 2, but ugly start to this race, Bizzle, and we really kind of see this kind of once a season. It's just like almost like you're going to get a mess of a race, and you sort of have to plan for that in your pit strategy, because in theory this is a 2-stop race, but if you get enough caution laps you could make it to the 25-minute mark, and then you're in a 1-stop territory.
See, making it to the 25-minute mark I don't think is the hard part. With this caution, I think we're going to make it to that 25-minute mark. The hard part is you still have another 25 minutes to go, and without a caution, you won't make it to the checker. So do you pit at 25 minutes? Do you try and stretch it a little further? Or do you short pit that 25 minutes, maybe pit 20 minutes in, pit at the 40-minute mark, and then you only have a 10-minute stint at the end?
We'll see how this race shapes up. Single file restarts will be the order of the day. Brian Lamarge back on the loud pedal out of turn number 4. 18 cars still on the racetrack. Steve Costley looks like he may have retired as well. So 18 cars all on the lead lap. And now you almost have to start thinking, where do we start to see the moves coming from? Does it happen a little bit deeper in the pack? AJ Camargo and Chris Hill starting to do battle. Hill inside of Camargo off of turn number 2, and he's the fastest car on the racetrack right now. There you see it, though. Perfect example of what we talked about in the pre-race, Bizzle. You've got 2 and 3 lines worth of cars that you can, or 2 and 3 lanes that you can use to really make a pass. And this might burn your tires up a little bit, but you can move your way to the front.
Yeah, the lower you go, the hotter you're going to get these things, the more you're going to scrub off that right front. But it does allow you to make some crazy moves. I just don't know that I'm willing to make those kind of crazy moves right now. Even though the whole field is close together, you're really going to make up most of your time on your pit stops here and being able to stretch it out the longest. It is so difficult to complete a pass here. You can see cars getting side by side here and there, and you can see everyone running different lines, but just getting around cars is incredibly difficult.
Well, and you almost have to set the pass up when somebody else is passing it down fails. We're seeing that out of Vic Pfluger here in the 80, looking inside of Jesse Francisco. Francisco looked inside of JJ Wag. That pass didn't work. Opened the door for Pfluger to go on the attack, but even he didn't really have anything down to the inside.
Whole field currently single file. No one making any huge moves right there. Big moment, though, for the 21 machine along. Does get by Johnson, I believe. Not just quite. This is exactly what I was saying earlier about how difficult it is to pass here. Almost lost the entire run he gained down the front straightaway. And now Johnson's going to try and clap back down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and it's like he threw that kind of soft slide job into turn 1. The problem is that opens the door for the crossover because you lose so much momentum sliding up the racetrack. At the front of the field, Brian Lamarge holding a 7/10 advantage over Jason Paydu. West Shire, Chris Hill, Stephen C. Thompson at your top 5. little bit further back of these guys, looked like Nagisa Yoshikawa was going to have to contend with Matthew Johnston. Let's move forward, though. Stephen C. Thompson, within about a tenth and change of Chris Hill. This is the battle for the 4th position. Stephen C. Thompson, multi-time winner here in the Shock Series. Chris Hill is one of the guys we mentioned in the Open as an absolute stud in the Indy cars. He's still trying to adjust to driving this thing.
Yeah, these cars, the Indy cars to me feel very, very laggy on inputs. They're a lot heavier than these cars. They're about 1,000 pounds heavier, which is only 1,400 pounds versus 2,400 pounds. It's both still very, very light machines, but the Indy cars just feel so much heavier on the steering. They have a little bit of a delay before they actually start moving. These things, the instant you move the steering wheel, you put any input in, they want to come around on you.
Towards the back, Drew Bernardi coming around Justin Elliott. That's going to be, well, let's see. We got some big action going on here. This will be Pfluger, Long, and Johnston in the battle for the 11th position. Of note, Nagisa Yoshikawa and Dakota DeMay have both made pit stops. They were involved in that lap 1 incident, but that tiny little bit of fuel can help you get just a little bit farther. Now, what I think we're seeing, though, Bizzle, is this race has really started to settle in. We could see this thing go a full 45 minutes, basically, from green to checker. And the only part of that makes me think is the tires start to fall off around 69, 70 laps. You get a nice run out of them, but when they go away, they are absolute junk.
Yeah, the benefit of a track that's flatter, like Indianapolis Raceway Park, is these guys are typically going to be burning off that right front tire, so we're not going to see another incident like we saw with Jason Owens just losing it all by yourself on cold tires. It's pretty common for these cars to do, but once you start burning off that right front, the car is just going to be slower and slower in the corners. It's going to want to hit that outside wall straight on. It's not going to want to turn. So you're not going to see any crazy incidents of self-spins or anything. If we do see an incident, it's going to be someone understeering and either moving up into another car or just hitting the wall.
Yeah, and we've talked about the fact that these Cooper tires are pretty much rocks on these race cars. It takes a couple of laps to get them up to a good working temperature range. But once you get them there, they last for a very long time. These drivers now have a feel for the race car and what it's going to do almost until the end of the fuel run. The bigger concern just becomes, do you start to lose any of the rear end grip as you burn the fuel off? Yeah,
and the reason these tires are so hard, it's the same thing that happens with every other junior Formula Series and junior touring series, is they want the tires to last more than one event. Not all these teams are rolling around with IndyCar budgets. A couple of the Indy Pro 2000 teams are. But not every team is going to want to put new tires on for every session. They want a set of tires to at least last half of the weekend. You know, you run one set for practice, maybe another set for qualifying, and then you're going to race on that same set of tires you qualified on. You're only running 8 tires for the weekend. It's not like you have the budget of an IndyCar team that's throwing 30, 40 sets of tires on the car for a full weekend.
Well, and you watch Wes Shire. He may be in the outside wall. He was. Wes Shire bounces it off the outside safer barrier, entering turn number 1. And a nice job there by Wes to keep the car under control, because the drivers talked about it in the pre-race and during practice. It's almost like there's a weird netcode thing going on with iRacing where you make contact with the wall and it almost shoots you down the racetrack like a lane and a half. That can be a big mess if you bump the wall in turn 1 and all of a sudden it's kicking you down towards the middle of the racetrack.
Yeah, with all the cars single file like they are right now, it's kind of a little scary, but it's not going to ruin your race. Later on, when these guys start really battling for position, you have a guy 6 inches underneath you and you shoot down a lane and a half, that is going to be absolute carnage.
Yeah, this is, oh, well, we have caution. Yellow flag is on the speedway. And it looks like maybe an incident for Jesse Francisco and JJ Wang. take a look here at the NRN replay. Francisco, the red car, down on the inside. JJ Wang up on the high side. Seeing anything yet. Oh, there it is. Little contact, the middle of 3 and 4. JJ Wang slides up the racetrack. Oh, baby, they almost piled into the back there. And that's what put us under the second caution flag of the night. And now the pit strategy starting to come into play already. Wes Shire is on pit lane. So is Nagisio Shikawa, Murray Damon, JJ Wang, Matt Johnson, Dakota DeMake, Vic Aldridge. Here at the 37-minute mark, if you don't think you can make it to the end of the race, this is not a bad time to come in and stop.
No, especially if you're towards the back of the pack, I absolutely love pitting here. It guarantees you can make it to the halfway point. You might still have to pit towards the end of the race, but so is everyone else. So you're not really losing anything, and if you were in the back of the pack anyway, it's not like you're dropping like a rock through the field.
Yeah, it almost to me feels like free track position later on in the race, especially if we get another yellow that times out right. These guys, 12th back through about 18th position, are set up in a not terrible place to gain the free track position, and we've seen that is a key here as we pick up Ryan Labarge, your race leader. He has been dominant in this race, led all 32 laps that we've completed. The gap was about 0.7 of a second over Jason Paydu. Chris Hill was 1.5 seconds back, almost 2 seconds back, in fact, at the time of the caution. Big gap there that Labarge had opened up. And we haven't even seen Labarge have to fight through lap traffic at all yet. This race is playing out exactly as he could have hoped for. So he should get the 1 to go signal next time by the start-finish line. And of note, just seeing the discussion going on here in the Discord chat, Bizzle, there is a drop week available to these drivers. So James Watson is not out of championship contention here in the shorter schedule. You're basically going to count your best 7 of 8 races. You hate to use a drop week early.
6. So it's your best 5 out of 6 races. And yeah,
I'm sorry,
you don't want to
6,
use a drop week early. And I hate when I drop a 0. If I'm running a 6-week season or a 12-week season and my drop week is a 0, that sucks. I would much rather drop a 24-point night and, say I had a really great season. But it's nice to know that drop week is there. Tonight sucks. You're out on lap 1, but it's not going to hurt you all that much as long as you finish all 5 of the rest of the races. Watson still has a win on week 1. He's the only driver that's won so far this season. Currently the highest in points. So if his drop week is the 0 and all the rest of the races are another 2 wins and a bunch of top 5s, he is still very much a championship contender.
So green flag goes back in the air. Labarge gets a great jump on Jason Paydu. Nagisa Yoshikawa making a quick move around West Shire. Well, as we've got one car slow, looks like that's Justin Elliott. Slow through turns 1 and 2, and man alive, the pack just gets all over the place. Elliott has to come down the pit lane. We move forward, pick up AJ Camargo, Jesse Francisco, Mike Long, Vic Pfluger. Battle for 5th through the 8th position. Trying to get a handle on what may have been going on here at the back of the pack. These guys are still fighting. Now, pick up the replay here. Chris Hill making a move around Jason Paydu. See what happened. Paydu may have got a piece of the wall here, possibly. Because Hill just carries a ton of speed down into turn number 1. A little bit of a tank slapper on exit, but Chris Hill moves up to position number 2. Paydu going to be right there, battling back inside off of turn number 4. And this has allowed Brian Labarge to open up the lead to a 2.5 seconds already, as Stephen C. Thompson may have gotten a piece of the safer barrier.
Yeah, also seeing that there was a meatball flag given to the 926 machine of Elliott. If you're new to the iRacing world, the meatball flag is one that's rarely used in the real world. It's a black flag with basically a big orange meatball in the center that says, your car is a piece of junk, you need to get it off of our racetrack right now. And unfortunately the 926 getting that. So possibly big contact for him somewhere in the field, not enough to warrant a caution.
Yeah, actually may have been an incident under caution is what we're hearing. Let's take a look, see if we can see this on the NRN replay. Oh, looked like the car just bottled up. Wes Shire really had to get on the binders. Nagisa Yoshikawa passes to the outside. And yeah, that was just a best possible mechanical issue. Almost like something with the simmering hardware there for Justin Elliott. He is back down into his pit box, and Chris Hill's opened up the gap ever so slightly here on Jason Paydu, up to about 1/3 second. Nagisa Yoshikawa, by far the fastest car on the racetrack right now. 19.303 seconds. Lap before that, he went 19.247 to set the fastest lap of the race.
So Brian Labarge absolutely running away with this one. A very dominant performance here tonight. Now the race is not over. We're not even at the halfway point. But I don't think in the history of TNT, at least since Ocean Walsh was racing with us, have we seen a performance this dominant.
Yeah, thus far, Labarge has led every lap from the drop of the green flag. And this was our two combatants last season. It was James Watson and Brian Labarge. Watson getting the win 1 week ago. Labarge looking on pace to possibly do that tonight. You really could be down to a 4-race shootout for these guys. Things will get very tight very fast when we get down to that last week and we start counting the drop weeks.
Yeah, and I absolutely love these real short seasons. I like them much better than a full-length season. Like, what we saw with the Sim Racers Club is unbelievable for a full-length season, where 2 years in a row it came down to the very last race. Basically tied. But that doesn't happen usually in year-long seasons. Usually the race there, the championship is won with still 5-6 races left to go in the year. Here we're only running those 6 races. There's no opportunity for a driver to run away with this championship.
Yeah, it's like the discussion we were having regarding baseball during the pre-race with the drivers, and about how the season is a marathon and then the playoffs are a sprint. That's kind of what this season feels like. It's like a best-of-3, best-of-5 kind of deal. Almost like, and maybe you have to go into that thought process as a driver, is I need to win 2 or 3 of these, and I had better be podium or top 5 in 2 more if I want to try to take a best-of-6 type format.
Yeah, it's basically the Fastmasters format in a championship. The Fastmasters races only 5-6 minutes long. You don't have an opportunity to set up strategy or do anything. You have to keep your pedal to the metal and basically do what it takes to win the race. If that means putting the chrome horn to someone, well, I'm sorry, buddy, but that's what you got to do.
Taking a look, Nagisa Yoshikawa trying to get around Drew Bernardi. This is the battle for 9th place as we are getting closer to the halfway point. Yoshikawa, the only car thus far of those that have made pit stops that has started to advance through the field, as we see Justin Elliott coming back out onto the speedway. Trouble also for Vic Aldrich. He has been on pit lane for an extended period of time as well, upwards of 4.5 minutes now. And Dave Sparks getting right up under the back of Drew Bernardi there. Yoshikawa able to make the pass. Bernardi going to have to look inside of Pfluger into 3. And the reason for J.J. Wang being on pit lane, or excuse me, the 98 of Vic Aldridge, was contact with the 61 of J.J. Wang. So a couple of meatball flags that we've seen here thus far. And just like you said, it's not a thing really in the real world. If your car's too junked to drive, you know it, and you kind of pull it off to the side of the road or you get it to pit lane. Here in the sim racing world, you don't really have to worry about that. And it's more of a, I think the car is okay, I'm going to keep driving it. And iRacing uses the meatball flag as a way to get those, we'll say, potentially dangerous cars off the racetrack.
Yeah, I've seen a meatball flag in the real world. I don't remember what series it was. I don't remember if it was at one of the dirt tracks that I've been shooting the HOA series with, or if it was for an SCCA event or something. But definitely there's series out there that do use the meatball flag, but it's not a common flag.
And McCullen checking into the comments saying, I saw one at Sebring. Yeah, that's kind of where you would see it, are the long endurance races that race control just goes, no, bud, pull it in, get it fixed, and then we'll let you back out to play more. It's a really good fight here. Again.
It may have even been Daytona that I've seen it in the big 24-hour races. IMSA might use it just because in a 24-hour race, sure, the car might be a piece of junk, you're missing a door, and you don't have a mirror on the side, and one tire is pointing the wrong direction. But if you can limp it around for another 8 hours, you're going to pass the cars that end up completely junked. So IMSA probably uses those flags to say, yeah, you can still drive it, but we don't want it on our racetrack.
Yeah, and that's especially true when you get into some of the either the required safety features or even things. I believe we saw it once, a black flag in the IndyCar series, because the little light up LED panel wasn't working, and that was a required thing on the race cars, something completely out of the team's control, and drivers were getting parked because their number boards were not working.
Well, that number board is a safety item. If the car is involved in an incident, and I believe it's over like 30 or 40 Gs, it actually flashes to let the safety crew, safety safari, when they come up, let them know, hey, this driver is probably concussed. It was an incredible accident. Take care when extracting the driver from the car.
Yeah, it also was something to do with the energy state of the car or something like that as well. And that's something you see in F1 as well. They kind of have the lights, so to speak, that'll go on to say the car's safe to touch, it's not safe to touch, or get the hell out of it.
Especially now that they're hybrid cars, running 800, 900 volt through these things, that is plenty enough to kill you in just a quick shock.
So Wes Shire starting to make his way up now, trying to get around Vic Pfluger, and he does, exiting turn number 2. Puts Wes Shire up to position number 12. Pfluger, we may be seeing kind of the remnants of the tires starting to go away here. Brian Labarge holding a 1.4 second lead, and that is pretty steady. Just now ticking into the 1.3s. However, big butt coming here. 65 laps on the tires for everybody in the top 7. Nagisa Yoshikawa only with 34 laps on his Cooper tires. I would tend to think we're probably going to have to see your race leaders coming to pit lane fairly soon, maybe in the next 5 to 10 laps.
Yeah, I mean, we are past the halfway point now. The pit window is very much open.
Well, it's like you said, though. You have to get to where the fuel number makes sense, because we know Wes Shire, Nagisa Yoshikawa, Dakota DeMay, these guys are all going to have to stop again. They do not have enough fuel to make the end of the race. However, Ryan Labarge needs to potentially make 2 more stops. And that's where you really have to try to start stretching the fuel number in a big way.
Yeah, I think if he can make it to the 20-minute mark, he should be good just on the 1 stop. But even still, we reduced the fuel from last season. I don't know if these things can go more than probably 18 minutes on a tank of fuel now. We didn't reduce it by much. I believe only 6 liters, which is not a whole lot of liquid fuel, but it is the difference of a minute or two, which changes up the strategy completely.
Yeah, basically what we've seen in seasons past here in the Shock Series was get to halfway, make your stop. If it went green all the way from the beginning of the race, you couldn't make it to halfway, but odds are you were going to get a caution in the second half, and with that one caution, you were good to make it. Now it's more like you need 2+ cautions in order to make it on one stop. We've had those two, but it's going to be a long 3 minutes or so for Brian Labarge to make this fuel last. And he is definitely in save mode, because here comes Chris Hill. Cut the gap down to about 0.6 of a second. Little bit of a bomb. Oh, actually, Chris Hill on pit lane. First of the leaders to come to pit road, 22.5 minutes remaining, about 70 laps or so. That's huge, because the longest run we saw in practice was Brian Labarge going 69 laps. Hill down into the box, hits the marks, cars up on the jacks. It will be a 4-tire change for Chris Hill. He's down and away, 6.8 seconds the time of the stop.
Now, Chris Hill is one of the IndyCar guys in the field, and if there's one thing the IndyCar guys are very, very good at, it's strategy. And of course, he comes in the pits. Now Brian Labarge, your race leader, very dominant so far. He comes into the pits as well, and the rest of the field follows. So Chris Hill might get the short pit, might get the jump on the rest of the field here, and possibly come out on top.
Well, and that's it. Labarge basically had no choice but to cover Chris Hill and the move he made. And there you see Chris Hill.
Chris Hill goes by. Chris Hill is now the effective race leader, currently in the 12th position, but every car in front of him has to make a pit stop still.
Well, not every car. That's where this gets interesting. The AJ Camargo is still on the lead lap. Nagisa Yoshikawa is up to the 3rd position. Stephen C. Thompson stays on pit lane as Camargo enters the pits for his stop. Yoshikawa has come around Stephen C. Thompson.
And with Hill, Labarge, and everyone behind them, 1 lap down, that is very much the danger zone. If the caution were to come out now, we do have a lucky dog, so Hill would get his lap back. Brian Labarge, after leading basically the first half of this race, would be trapped 1 lap down.
Yeah, that short pit, that little bit of a decision by Chris Hill to say, hey, I'm going to come 1 lap sooner than Brian Labarge, could play a huge role in this race later on, as Stephen C. Thompson is on pit lane.
I thought I saw a car stopped on the backstretch.
Seeing a black flag to the 00 of Dave Sparks, penalty for pit entry. And now, here's your race leader, Nagisa Yoshikawa. Chris Hill is right behind him. But Nagisa Yoshikawa, actually, excuse me, Dakota DeMang running 2nd. Looks like we have about 6 cars on the lead lap as it stands right now. If a caution flag were to fly, they would get the free stop to make it to the end of the race. Chris Hill would get the lap back. Oh, man, as they almost make contact exiting turn 2. Hill able to make the pass on Yoshikawa, but he now has to go the full, almost 7/10 of a mile around this racetrack. It looks like we would be due to see Yoshikawa, DeMay, J.J. Wang, Matt Johnston, Wes Shire, Murray Damon, your 6 cars that stopped 51 laps ago. We're due to see them in probably about 18 to 20 laps at this point. Obviously running 19-second laps, it's not enough to make it to the end, even with a caution flag.
Yeah, that's why I still think that Hill is going to be, or is your effective leader. Brian LaBarge effectively in second place. When we say they're effectively leader, effectively in second place, that's because everyone in front of them is going to have to come down the pit lane, and they're going to lose that position where they're sitting right now.
Yeah, it's just a matter of when does the caution fly, because if we get a caution now, Chris Hill would come around, become your race leader. Brian LaBarge would likely take the wave around because the pace car would pick up Nagisa Yoshikawa. He kind of just shuffles everybody back.
The wave around wouldn't matter, though. If you're the lucky dog, I'm going to put a fresh set of sneakers on that car. It's a free pit stop. You're at the tail end of the lead lap anyway. No matter what you do, if you take the wave around or the lucky dog. So I'm coming in the pits, I'm throwing a fresh set of sneakers on the thing and seeing what I can do with them.
Yeah, and I would tend to think, I mean, heck, even Chris Hill, he's got 13 laps on the tires, and there's 54 to go. They're only maybe a lap or two to the good. It's at least going to be close. I'll say it that way. If we stay green, we get a caution flag, all that stuff goes out the window. But this race has been clean and green since that second caution flag. Almost like you have to start thinking about fuel saving potentially if you're one of these cars. Well, we say that, and the yellow is out. Justin Elliott, Vic Pfluger having trouble on the racetrack. Caution is out, and the ugliness scenario has come into play. Elliott.
And I feel, oh man, I feel terrible for Brian LaBarge. Brian LaBarge is right about to get by Nagisa Yoshikawa. That would have put him back up to second if the caution were to come out a minute later. But unfortunately, Brian LaBarge now, after leading the first half of this race, is going to be trapped at the tail end of the lead lap.
At the tail end of the lead lap, but at least he's on the same lap as the leaders. As Nagisa Yoshikawa has to come down pit lane, so does Murray Damon, so does Wes Shire. Dakota DeMay, JJ Wang also on pit lane. It will cycle through, I believe, Chris Hill back to the lead of the race. Very short stop for Wes Shire. There's Chris Hill coming past. See where everybody else slots into the line of play here.
Brian LaBarge being the lucky dog car, does he take that free pit stop? It doesn't matter if you take it or not. You're going to restart in the same spot. Maybe not. It shows him in front of JJ Wang, and Nagisa Yoshikawa is still your race leader.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's showing Nagisa as your race leader. Chris Hill is in second. Dakota DeMay at third. Fourth is going to be Brian LaBarge.
iRacing doing some very funky race control once again.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lost on where we are here with the iRacing race control. What we're seeing right now, Nagisa Yoshikawa is your race leader. Chris Hill is second. Dakota DeMay third. Brian LaBarge fourth. JJ Wang in the fifth position. JJ Wang, well, let me go back through this here. I believe JJ Wang had a meatball. I'm sorry, he was the contact with the 98.
You know what I think happened? Chris Hill was right in front of Nagisa Yoshikawa when that caution came out. Nagisa must have grabbed the pace car as soon as it left the pit lane, and Chris Hill didn't race back to the pace car when everyone was in the pits, so Nagisa Yoshikawa still exited the pit lane in front of Chris Hill.
It's almost like the pace car picked up Chris Hill. So Nagisa pitted, cycled everybody through. Chris Hill slots in line behind Nagisa. I
hope in one of the next updates for iRacing they give us more control over race control. We do have a live person for race control here, but what you're able to do is so limited Like, I wish we could leave the pits closed until it was race control's discretion to open them back up. And basically let everyone line up behind the pace car as they should, instead of opening the pits as everyone's still shuffling.
Yeah, so now everybody in front of Nagisa Yoshikawa has gotten the wave around. And I would think everybody should be good to go to the end now on fuel, because we're only seeing about 42 laps remaining. 21 laps on the stint thus far for Chris Hill. So now everybody's going to catch back up to the back end of the field. And the lights are out with 12 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. Yoshikawa, Hill, DeMeg, Wang, Paydu, your top 5. Johnston, Labarge, Labarge, Johnston, Camargo, Thompson, and Long back through the 10th position. Somebody hanging out way down to the inside of the racetrack. So Brian Labarge is going to line up in the 8th position. Nagisa Yoshikawa electing to bring the field down slow through turns 3 and 4. Now he's back on the throttle. Green flag's out. We are green once again. 12 minutes, 15 seconds to go. Yoshikawa able to jump out to about a third of a second gap over Chris Hill. Dakota DeMeg hanging right out up underneath the back end of the 101. And Chris Hill closing quickly on Nagisa Yoshikawa. Big dive into turn number 1 by Hill. Yoshikawa fights back on the outside, squeezes up towards the outside wall. Hill again going to try the slider. Up the racetrack, crossover by Yoshikawa. Hill now dive inside into 1.
Yoshikawa almost slides up into the side of Hill, manages to avoid contact there, and Dakota DeMeg is watching back there, sitting eating his popcorn, because he knows if these two tangle together, he is going to be your new race leader.
Top 3 breaking away from 4th place, J.J. Wang. Good battle up here at the front. Of note, Brian Labarge now in the 10th position and not able to make his way forward. He talked about having 2 different setups on his at his disposal, I guess you would say. And one of the issues was one did not play well in traffic, one did not play well as the leader. When you qualify on the pole, you might make the call to say, hey, I'm going to put the good out front setup on this thing. And now in traffic, he's just stuck.
Yeah, that's a lot of the balance you play, especially with any race car with wings on it, is you can either load it up on downforce and it'll be fine sitting behind other cars, because even in dirty air, you're going to make enough to keep the tires stuck to the ground, but you're going to be slow as dirt in the front of the field. Or you can trim the car out, you can run away from the field, but once you're in traffic, you have nothing, no downforce at all. You might as well be driving a Formula V out there.
I miss our freebie races. They were so much fun. Formula V's at Concord was an absolute blast to drive. So now inside of 10 minutes remaining, Hill, Yoshikawa, and DeMeg all separated by 2/10. A little bit further back, Stephen C. Thompson getting close. Here's Wes Shire. Up onto the back end of Brian Labarge, who's up onto the back end of Mike Long. This is 8th, 9th, and 10th. If you're Labarge, you got to start thinking about, I got to go to the front at this point. Passing is proving to be difficult. Oh, and there's contact! What a save by Long! Shire dives inside. 2-for-1 blue light special to West Shire.
God, I miss Kmart.
What a save by Mike Long and Brian Labarge. Oh, it's Shire with a tank slapper off of 4.
Wes Shire driving his trademarked very, very loose setups here.
Yeah, loose is not the word for the setups that Wes Shire runs.
I'd call him a little smiley, but...
Wow. Ryan Labarge may have gotten the outside wall exiting 4. Jesse Francisco able to pull up alongside. Can't do anything with it through 1 and 2. And the battle for the lead is starting to heat up. Nagisa Yoshikawa, call it within a car length of Chris Hill as they get to turn number 1. And where you really have to start to think if you're Nagisa and especially in Dakota's seat, yes, we have a quickie yellow procedure once we get under 5 minutes remaining, but you're still wasting a lot of time under the caution flag. If you want to guarantee yourself a shot at Chris Hill, you have to start making that move now.
Yeah, you got to start faking him out. You got to start making him wear his tires. Push him farther than he is comfortable going.
Well, that's a big part of the experience game here. Nagisa, a stalwart in this series, and in the Indy Pro 2000 officials here on iRacing. He's one of those guys with lots and lots of laps around this racetrack. Chris Hill might have a lot of laps here, but not in an Indy Pro car. Nagisa going to try to use that experience to his advantage. And remember, this is coming after an EOL to start the race, lap 2 contact that saw Jason Owens and James Watson eliminated, and the early pit stop. A whole lot has gone on for Nagisa Yoshikawa here tonight, and with 6 and change minutes left, he's still got a shot at the race win.
And Nagisa Yoshikawa, not that I have any favorites out here on the field, but definitely runs my favorite of the Team Watson racing car schemes. I mean, I'm just a sucker for purple. It's such a simple scheme, and it still says TWRS on the side. And they sponsor my cup program, so I'd say it's pretty cool.
Insert, this is a sponsored promotional thing, graphic in the upper right-hand corner. Dakota's another one of those guys that always runs great. The TNT special events, Dakota is always towards the front of them. When we run the vintage Indy, usually in an Indy car, whatever the fastest car in the show is, and usually towards the pointy end of the field. You can't count him out in this scenario. You just have to start thinking 5.5 minutes left. It's almost like, does he have anything, or does he have to wait for these guys to make the move?
I think where he's at with how hard it is to pass here, it's going to be so hard to get the blue light special. He's going to have to sit back there and wait for these guys to do something. Either let him start driving side by side and just take him 3 wide. Just like they're doing right here.
Yeah, Yoshikawa, big, almost kind of a reverse diamond on the corner. Really dove it hard off of turn number 4. Gave up a ton of straight line speed down the front straightaway. Jason Paydu, by the way, running in the 4th position. He's about 1.5 seconds back of the race leaders. 1 second back of Dakota DeMay. That number becomes important. If he can get that down to about 1.4 seconds behind the leaders, there isn't much, but that little bit of draft can start to come into play. And if they keep battling at the front, Jason Paydu may still have a shot at this thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't count anyone out in the top 5. Now that we're below the 5-minute mark, I don't know that we can get a caution and still finish this race. But you could definitely still have contact between cars that takes them out without bringing the yellow out.
Well, the other part of it is you do have the quickie yellow procedure. That is first time, once the leader has been picked up by the pace car, the next time by the start-finish line, lights go out, we go back to green flag racing. Timing and scoring is estimating about 12 and a half laps to go here at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Chris Hill, I believe we talked to 1 week ago as a podium finisher. Strong round number 2 thus far. He has led 26 laps. Nagisa Yoshikawa leading 19. We did talk about the fact that just absolutely gutted for Brian Labarge, leading a race-high 72 laps. Caught out by the timing of the caution and where the pit stops were. Labarge still sitting back in the 9th position. And now if you're Yoshikawa, it's go time. 2 minutes, 50 seconds remaining, inside of 10 laps to go. I just don't know where you make the move on Chris Hill.
I think he just has to keep doing what he's doing. Every time that door opens itself, send it deep in there. One of these times, you're going to scare Chris Hill. You're going to force him into a mistake. You're going to do something to him. I mean, you can only defend so many moves before it gets tiring, before you start destroying the tires in the car, or before you just make a mistake.
Well, we'll see if that mistake's going to come here in the next 2 minutes and call it 5 seconds as they exit turn number 2.
I mean, Nagisa Yoshikawa is getting more and more aggressive with the moves he's making. And Chris Hill is making more and more mistakes where he's leaving that door wide open. One of these times it's going to be open enough for Nagisa to sneak on in and steal this race win.
I tell you what I'm really impressed with is Chris Hill's corner exit speed. Really able to roll the car nicely, kind of that higher lane into the corners, and just carries a ton of speed off of exit. Yoshikawa's trying to find it, but you can't run the same line. You're going to have dirty air. You can see it there at the midpoint of the corner. He almost had to grab the brakes to keep the car from sliding up into the outside safer barrier. That's allowed Chris Hill to keep this gap right around about a third of a second.
Yeah, and that's where that IndyCar experience comes in for Hill. And
Yoshikawa was in the wall.
He did hit the wall. Now Dakota Mag is going to pass Yoshikawa here. Yoshikawa has to have damage on that car. Huge move there across the nose of DeMag's car. This is exactly what race control Ed McCullum was talking about in the pre-race with these huge blocks that happen down these straightaways. Waiting to see if we get a post-race penalty for that. I know it said there would be a warning first, so possibly that warning has already been given. But these two battling now basically is handing the win to Chris Hill. I mean, there's nothing Chris Hill can do short of smacking the wall that's going to take this win away from him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We are down to 30 seconds remaining. Call it a lap and a half to go. Should see the white flag this time by as the field is now at 19 seconds. And there it is. White flag is out. 1 lap to go for Chris Hill. 36 laps led on the night thus far. Just 2 more quarters to go. Through 3 and 4 for the final time. Twin checkers go in the air, and Christopher Hill picks up the win at Indianapolis Raceway Park. Nagisa Yoshikawa will finish second. Dakota DeMag rounding out the podium. In what I will say was a very entertaining race here, Bizzle. A lot for us to talk about. And quite frankly, you kind of got a little bit of everything. Good racing, some strategy calls, just a whole lot going on here.
Yeah, and we have a first-time winner here in the TNT Series.
Chris Hill with a podium finish 1 week ago. Backs it up with a victory here tonight at IRP. Race results are listed as official with all the cars crossing the start-finish line. While Chris Hill burns the house down here on the front straightaway. Let's take a look at your race results. Finishing up front is Chris Hill by 0.8 of a second over Nagisa Yoshikawa. Dakota DeMag rounding out the podium. Jason Paydu and J.J. Wang complete the top 5. 6 through 10 tonight, AJ Camargo, Stephen C. Thompson, Wes Shire, Brian Lamarge, and Jesse Francisco. Second page of the leaderboard, Matthew Johnston, Mike Long, Murray David, Drew Bernardi, and Vic Pfluger back to the 15th position. Pfluger 44 laps behind the race leader. Dave Sparks, Justin Elliott, Vic Aldrich, Steve Costley, and Jason Owens back to 20th. James Watson and Chris Kresge round out the 22-car entry list. Kresge did not turn a lap in tonight's race that went a total of 134 laps. Let's take a look here and see. We've got Dakota DeMeg in the waiting room, so let's bring Dakota up here. We'll kick off our victory lane interviews. And Dakota, you had a lot going on in front of you over those last handful of laps. What was kind of your thought process going on as the race, as you watched that battle transpire in front of you? Because it seemed like passing was just really, really hard tonight.
I was just trying to save my tires at the end there. It wasn't exactly a short stint, but not really a long stint either. But I just wanted to save my tires for the last couple minutes, and then get a fight in the last 2 minutes there. I just didn't want to risk the pack catching up to us. But yeah, and at some point I thought Nagisa was gonna wipe out Chris there, but yeah, and then we just kind of fell behind Chris in the last 5 laps there, but. Hey, man, I'm happy to be up there. I got lucky on that yellow, so, I'll take what I can get, especially on the home track.
Well, it's so funny that you mentioned that yellow flag because everybody, Chris Hill, your race winner, did this in 2 stops. You did it in 3 tonight. Did you feel like that strategy call early in the race might pay off and then just kind of the caution timed out when it did?
No. So my first caution, or my first pit stop was for a damaged front wing. So that was just kind of fix the front wing and then, see what I can do. So definitely not the ideal strategy to have your front wing crumpled up, but hey, man, I'll take 3rd.
Well, it was a great drive for you tonight, Dakota. Congratulations on it. And get all those sponsor plugs and shout-outs in before we let you get out of here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Shout out to Sunset Arctic Games. You can check out Voltic Pistol and Echo Blade on Steam and PS4, PS5, Xbox, and Switch. And a special shout out to Emmy in Race Control. She does a great job. She told me I was going to start in the back, and I told her I was going to finish up front. So, boom.
Yeah, there you go. Call the shot, and big move through the field tonight. Congratulations on it, Dakota. Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us here for just a minute. And now we'll bring in Nagisa Yoshikawa, our runner-up finisher here tonight. And Nagisa, this race started in not a good way. Looked like contact with the outside wall in turn 1 led to a couple of cars getting involved. How are you able to get this thing back to the front? Was it just purely pit strategy luck, or was there was a whole lot of hard driving in there too, I'd guess?
Yeah, for sure. It was a really tricky start. I didn't have my race set on for the grid, and I also had the EOL anyway, so that first caution was actually pretty lucky. But then, yeah, just working my way from the back, it felt like on every restart, but the car was super quick all night. We were flying, especially early in the race. I was just picking people off, and then that first caution when I pitted, second caution, I guess, kind of screwed me because someone didn't go on the restart, so that gave me a big gap to everybody ahead. So it was just like kept having stuff set us back, but the car was amazing. We were really fast, and I just ended up getting kind of some of that luck back with staying out a bit longer on my strategy, and then getting lucky with the caution coming out and restarting in the lead.
Yeah, and then ultimately Chris able to get past you not long after the restart. You tried a lot of different things late in this race. Any concern that you were going to burn the tires up or make big contact with the wall or anything like that? Because it seemed like with anybody tonight, the harder they pushed, the worse the car got to drive.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was probably my mistake in that last stint. Was I knew I had a bit of a tire advantage over Chris, so I wasn't too upset when he got by me because he was a bit more aggressive on the first couple laps. And I'm like, all right, I'll just sit here and see if I can get him to overwork his tires and see if I can make my tire advantage work. And then I think I just burned up my tires too much behind him, which was unfortunate. And also the car was a little bit worse. I think my setup wasn't as good in the later race, but I mean, I'm still happy to get a good result for points.
Well, congratulations on it. A big second place finish for you here tonight. Congratulations once again. And before we let you go, get all the sponsor plugs and shout outs we know you got over there.
Yeah, of course, Team Watson Racing as always, and Team Watson Racing setups, the best setups for the PM18, and as always, shout out to TNT for putting on a great league. I haven't been able to run as much racing recently as I would have liked, but it's good to be back, and also you guys for putting on a great broadcast.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate the kind words from you there, and we will let Nagisa out of here, and we will bring in our race winner, Mr. Christopher Hill. A fantastic drive here tonight. I have to go back to the caution flag that came out. You had just unlapped yourself around Nagisa. Caution flag flies, and all of a sudden it looked like all hell broke loose in the iRacing timing and scoring stuff. We thought you would have been the race leader. You come out second. What were you seeing, and how did that all play out from the cockpit of your car?
Yeah, I was a little confused too. I was surprised to see him come out in front of me, but I think part of that was I didn't hustle around like I should have. Like the oval racing thing is not something I do as much as I do the road racing stuff. So some of the procedural stuff and strategy stuff, I made some of the wrong calls occasionally, and in this case, I think if I'd gone full speed around, I would have got ahead of him and then been starting from the lead as it was. I don't know, maybe not. It was weird though, because I think maybe I actually did pass him, and then was told to let him by. Yeah. So I don't know. And then it sucks. Brian got messed up there on his. I mean, he definitely would have been up there battling if not taking the win. He definitely had the pace. So bummed for him on that. That's a shame.
It was after that you had a very hard battle with Nagisa late in this race, and really it seemed like he pushed hard. You did a lot of line changing, though, I noticed, going from the very high almost to that kind of the stripe, I guess you would say, never getting all the way to the bottom. But was that a big part of your strategy, was just to keep the air as dirty as possible on his front wing?
I don't know if I was actually thinking of that aspect of it, but I was finding that every time he would go to the inside, if I pinched off the exit a little bit, it would kill his ability to make the run off. And so that was really more of what I was thinking than anything else, on top of, in my limited knowledge of this car and this type of stuff, Wes was saying, hey, if you vary the line, it sometimes helps the tires. So I was just randoming it and trying to make it work, and it all ended up working out in the long run. So super stoked. I mean, I didn't think we'd be running for a win tonight. I thought we'd maybe get a top 5, maybe get a podium if luck went our way, and Wes, I just ran the West setup and and it worked. So I'll take it.
The notoriously loose Westshire setups. Yeah. Now we're 2 races into a 6-race schedule. There is a drop week, so you can't count James or Jason, any of these guys, out just yet. But you got to feel really confident in terms of a championship battle here as we hit the 1/3 point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good with it. As long as my schedule doesn't kick me out of a race, but it's good to know there's a drop race now, because that gives me a chance. I think we can still run towards the front. I'm hoping that some of the later races, like the road course, I feel pretty confident I'll do decent there. And I don't know. We'll just have to see. I have no clue how the rest of the ovals are going to go, and I don't know. I feel like we got a chance at it, though. So.
Well, I'll say this. Get used to some pack racing at some of these places. But, Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to check in with us here up in the booth. And before we let you go, get all those sponsor plugs and shout-outs in for us.
Yeah, big thanks to James and the guys over at Team Watson Racing. Great setup shop, great guys. Always a fun night when we're racing together and all that. I mentioned Precision Racing Instruction. That's my company. If you're looking for a tune-up in the real world or the sim, reach out to us. We got some exciting things coming in the future. Kind of got a book in the pipeline that hopefully we can get finished up here not too far down the road. So excited, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks for broadcasting and all that, and hopefully we'll be talking to you more this season. So
Yeah, sounds great, Chris. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming to hang out with us up here in the booth as well. And, man, Bizzle, it was interesting to hear what Chris had to say there, because he's a guy, we talked about how much experience he has on the IndyCar side and how much he leaned on Wes Shire to kind of glean not only information on the car, but just outright saying, I'm going to run Wes's setup and try to make this work. It goes to show that in this sim, in this game, whatever you want to call it, there is still a lot to be said for the guys that have a lot of experience in one single type of car.
My favorite part of that was how driven to improve Chris Hill is. Now, he runs a driving school, so that's his whole thing. It's where he makes his money, is helping other people improve, but he's very focused on improving himself too. He won the damn race tonight, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was, wow, I could have played the strategy so much better, and just looking back and seeing all the things I could have done to be in front here. Man, you won the race. If that was me, I would have just been stoked, man. I did everything I need to do. I'm on the top spot. But no, Chris Hill, even after finishing as good as you can finish, there's no better than first. He is still looking for a way to get better than that.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting listening to Chris talk, and fun guy to have driving in the series, and neat one that we get to talk to here now for 2 races. With that, it's going to wrap up our broadcast, night of mediocrity, we'll say. We are going to take a week off, coming back October 22nd with a visit to Legacy Phoenix. Yes, please. These cars at Phoenix is just fantastic. Then we'll close out the schedule October 29th. Watkins Glen running the Cup Classic layout. No inner loop on that one. They will run the big outer loop, but the old style NASCAR layout. November 12th off to Richmond Raceway, a little bit similar to Iowa, and then we close out the season November 19th with a visit to the artist formerly known as Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway. Full-on pack racing, 2 and 3 wide in PM18s. It is going to be a ton of fun. With that, time for us to get the heck on out of here. For Mr. Bizzle, Patrick Byrne, and everybody else here at the National Racing Network that helps us get these shows on the air, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a great night, everybody.